So as you can see, folks, from the screen there, Carl Munson in Devon, and also in Devon, on the left of your screen, Mike Brodie, founder of OurNet, also in Devon, just up the road in the capital city of Exeter, or is it? Or would that be Plymouth? I don't know. But
Devon.
The capital city of Devon, Exeter. We'll go with it. Beautiful cathedral, fabulous people, as you can see in front of you. So, Mike, we have a couple of hashtags on our screen there. We're talking about all sorts of what might seem like random issues, I suppose, because we're in a business now of developing the organisation that is or the project known as OurNet. And some might say, well, what on earth would, if they're talking about OurNet, why would they be talking about Brexit or the electronic edifice? Why did you want to speak about Brexit today, and what has that got to do with the ongoing development of OurNet?
Well, that's a really great question, Carl. So the whole thing of Brexit was an extreme lack of communication and understanding of the popular mood, what people wanted, where people wanted us to go. And it became like a sales pitch from a few people that had vested interest to get an outcome which they wanted. And of course, 50% wanted Brexit, 50% didn't. And in fact, the money was also pretty well distributed as well. That was investing in the campaigns. So what actually happened was we were subjected to a 4 or 5 week long, I can't remember now, but it seemed forever. A really long campaign of people trying to persuade us to their views. And they persuade us by inventing lots of facts, choosing lots of facts, presenting things in a way which enhanced their opinions, but actually didn't really provide very much in the way of information for the likes of you and I and the rest of the population to make any valid decisions. And talking to people made up their mind on whether to vote for Brexit or not on a huge variety of things. A few absolutely on the racist issue, a few on economic issues, a few on, the whole range of things. Incidentally, very few people seemed to vote because they didn't want to be able to travel around Europe easily. And none of that really came out. We were just left with making a decision on a very sort of black and white sort of question of, do we come out of Europe or not? Without anyone really knowing why people were voting, and the people that were voting not really knowing what the options were and how they could influence the options. So that's a rather long and rambly version of it. So the thing about the whole concept behind OurNet is that people will be able to contribute to the conversation building up to contribute to the debate about, for example, things like Brexit. And that could be either on a local level about local town planning or sort of regional level or national level. People could really contribute to those conversations in an environment which encourages people to be sort of positive and make a contribution. And they do so through sharing their views and having other people sort of get a sense of what everyone thinks. I didn't put that very elegantly, but it's through people writing their views, sharing it with their friends or people they know or people that are part of their community, and having the people they're sharing it with actually rate their opinions, rate the opinions of the person that's written out the articles, for example. That starts then to give feedback. Sorry, Carl.
Sorry to jump in there, but that we're seeing the beginnings of accountability there, aren't we? In what will you be fair for making the observation there isn't much accountability in the Brexit referendum, is there, or the whole system that led up to that? So with the bogus campaign, excuse me, with the bogus campaign of how much money could go into the NHS, it turned out to be a total lie and no accountability for it. Yeah. And accountability is a hard thing to put in after the mix, isn't it? So you're talking about accountability in real time.
So accountability before decisions are made, in fact. Because one of the really bizarre things about Brexit was the people that were heading the campaigns weren't actually people that were in power. They weren't actually people that, had some power, but they weren't people that had accountability for putting it all in place. So they're able to come out with all sorts of preposterous statements. And the number of preposterous statements was absolutely phenomenal. They were able to come out with these, and they wouldn't be the people in the driving seat after the decision was made. So people that didn't agree with them, or didn't agree much, or whatever, would actually be tasked with putting it in place. Bizarre.
Yeah, and it would appear to me, I mean, an observation I have, or two observations with Brexit, is if you were left, you really had only one way to go. If you were the right, you only had the other way to go. There wasn't like a sort of Johari window. It became very polar, which also led me to believe that the ultimate position of politics, the way we have them, will be like this, that 51% of the people will be telling the other 49% what we should all be doing. And it will be, and that, as we can see from Brexit, leads to just bitterness and acrimony. And in this case, not only that, on the point of the voting and its aftermath, but a very complex situation that people are trying to distill into one yes or no answer, which is that which really, if anyone thought about it, is a recipe for disaster.
Well, completely.
Yeah.
I mean, I tend to be left-leaning myself. You know, to be upfront and very public about this. I lean to the left. Sorry.
So I was just leaning to the left as well for a minute.
You're too quick for me.
I'm back in the middle now.
You went over to my right, though. That's the trouble.
I did. I'm a centrist again. Oh.
But so getting serious now, though, Carl, for a moment, if I may.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So I tend to lean to the left, and I love the idea of a free world that I can travel around easily. And yet I had a concern about the structure of Europe. You know, it felt to me that Europe is a highly centralised organisation. Virtually everything comes from the centre. I don't feel empowered to. Well, I don't believe that I affect decisions that are made at Brussels to any. Well, I don't even to any extent whatsoever. Actually, you know, that's how I feel. And so I was left with the option of sort of voting for either a one world option, which was controlled by central bureaucrats, or the likes of Boris Johnson and Michael Gove. I don't know whether I made the right decision or not, but you know, I found myself very uncomfortably voting along with Boris Johnson and Michael Gove.
Yes.
Knowing the whole thing was a complete charade.
Yes. And so to bring it back to what might be possible with our net and a new way of making decisions for communities, whatever size they are. One thing I think people have got that, haven't they? That, you know, we could decentralise voting, which inevitably would mean loads more voting. People could be voting on issues every day, couldn't they?
So,
or every hour, pretty. Would that be a bad thing?
Well, I mean, you know, arguably we do. You know, we vote every second. You know, whether to breathe in, breathe out, whether to have breakfast. You know, we do actually impact the world in all sorts of ways every second. And even if we choose not to be responsible for the power we exercise, we are actually exercising our power and our influence all the time. The issue is, it seems to me, that we once every 5 years or 4 years, or however quickly Theresa May wants to have it happen, we go onto a little booth and vote for one party or another, which we, you know, on balance we might like better than the others. And that then is taken as a mandate for people to go away for 5 years and do exactly what they want. Now, I do believe it's really important to have people that are responsible for the administration of government. I think it's crucial. I don't think we are capable of doing that. But the trouble is, they have no sense of what is going on at the grassroots. You know, it's very noticeable that people in government tend to come from an upper class elite. They tend to have had public school or for foreigners, private school education. They tend to be more wealthy than most. They tend to come from the professional classes. You know, there's a whole bias of central government which ensures they don't really know what's going on with people that aren't like them. You know, having a very large income does rather insulate you from, you know, what it's like having to go to a food bank or you know, living rough, or even managing on social security for a family of 4 in a little council flat. It's a different sort of life, and they don't really get any feedback. And so the OurNet system is absolutely about providing the feedback, and also the potential for statistical analysis on what people think, so the decision makers are making decisions that the likes of you and I, Carl, the people at the bottom of the heap, the likes of you and I actually feel we're heard. I was joking, Carl.
Yeah, okay, I got it. But I mean, let's face it.
Top drawers.
Yes, certainly aspirationally. But you know, let's face it, the system we have, and this may well be another talking point for OurNet, if not today, then another time, is that most people find themselves at the bottom of the heap because of the way our money system is developed. Given that 45 people, 45 men, I think they are all men, own more than half the wealth of the world, that is going to make a heap in which most people find themselves, I think.
Yeah. I wonder what they do with it, but you know, how do you have that?
The dynamics of that, I guess, because our system is so based on fear, and you know, that we can connect back to Brexit on that basis, and a lot of people voted out of fear. Given, I think, that so much of the world, or so many people, are motivated by fear, it's not their fault. It's just that would probably lead to people, even if they've got insane and obscene amounts of money, being scared and therefore needing more, or feeling they need more, just in case it goes. Yeah.
Yes.
We have a question, and it's so great. Actually, I'm delighted so far with how this technology is working. I'm hoping this is the future of many a discussion we're having around the principles around which OurNet is being developed. Dan, our friend Dan, has been in touch. Dan Hoare. It's been put about that the UK agriculture industry will collapse without a European workforce. What are your views?
So, plants grow. The issue about growing plants is that they only become useful when you harvest them. And the amount, it's really interesting because we become completely happy. Well, I don't know if happy is the right word. We expect to spend a vast proportion of our income on accommodation. Most of it, which goes on mortgages, which the interest of which goes to the banks, etc. But when it comes to food, we're actually far more concerned about getting everything absolutely as cheap as possible. And the pressure we put on agriculture means that farmers, etc., have to, for them to make their living and survive, they have to source supplies as cheaply as possible. And one of the supplies they source as cheaply as possible is labour. So under the current system, if we don't have cheap labour, then the price of food will go up. But if the price of food goes up and the price of property comes down, or if income goes up as well, then there's not much of an issue, it seems to me. We'll just get used to food being a high proportion of our budget and accommodation being a smaller proportion of our budget, and life will go on perfectly well. And it means that a lot more people have a better income, which they pay taxes on, they spend their money in their local shops or in the supermarkets or whatever, and the whole thing keeps going around. It's a bit, you know, if you look at it just completely separately, our current agriculture is dependent on that. And if food prices go up dramatically, then people won't be able to afford the food. So they get into debt, etc. But the whole structure of our economy is such that that is a problem. Fundamentally,
Yes.
people are growing food, etc.
Dan says, thank you. Food for thought. See what you did there, Dan. What occurs to me there with you speaking, yes, plants will grow, won't they? And they'll grow extraordinarily well, often without the interference of mankind. And another part of this conversation is who is setting these parameters? Why is it that even, your man in the street, as it were, it can grasp that if people can't come here to work, that our food prices will go up. This, like 30 or 40 years ago, would have been the talk of an economic think tank rather than everyday talk between people. And what's happened, I think, is economics has been brought to a level where people can understand it. But the terms of engagement, the frames of reference, are treated as though they are the only ones available. So people are terrified of inflation. And they're terrified of low interest rates, and they're terrified of workers not being able to come. Well, on the one hand, they say, yeah, we don't want people coming over here taking our jobs, which they don't want to do anyway. But we don't want people coming over here. That's great. We stopped them coming over here. Oh no, our food prices are going up now because we stopped people coming over here to do cheap labour. Those parameters have been designed to suit the minority we were talking about before, haven't they? Those parameters have not been designed to make food affordable. They've been designed to allow that upflow of profitability and money to go up to those 45 guys we were talking about earlier on.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't believe for 1 minute that someone sat down sort of 400 years ago and worked all this out. There's the system. I don't know when the system started. It might be 1,000, 2,000. I really don't know, but it's the system develops over time because people see, oh look, I can get an advantage for myself there. And so they make a slight alteration, the system slews over, they find everyone else doesn't really realise what's happened, and therefore the change is accepted. And then this all carries on. I don't think any of the 45 multi-billionaires or whatever it is you're talking about, actually, I don't think they or their forebears sat down and thought, I will make a system which completely skews the planet so that I can take complete power and control over it. Perhaps they did, but I doubt that. I don't think many people are that imaginative, actually. But we're all imaginative enough to try and skew the system that we've got. And that's what we do.
Yes.
And so
did you mean in a positive way that, yay, people, we do have the imagination and wherewithal if we so want to do it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
If we want to do it, and if we think it's possible. But the problem is, when people are stuck in stories about lack, about attack, all the sort of stories which, that you identified around Brexit, for example, when people are stuck in those stories, they desperately try and, because fundamentally the real fear is safety, isn't it? It's if you felt really safe, then why would it matter how much food costs? If you felt really safe, why would it matter if you're surrounded by people from different ethnic backgrounds? If you're really safe, etc., etc., etc. But fundamentally, we feel unsafe and we feel attacked. In life, and so we put up the boundaries to protect ourselves, and that's whatever group we are. We put up boundaries to protect ourselves because we think other people are going to take away something that we have, which they want. And the world is perfectly capable of providing for us all very, very nicely. Whilst people starve, other people throw away a third of their food budget in uneaten food. That's just the way it is. It's not necessary, but when that food doubles in price and starts to make us feel fearful, we go off on one.
Yes. Flights of fear. Flights of fear and fancy. You can see the questions where you are as well.
I can, yeah.
Excellent. And you seem to have me coming through your speakers as well, I think, or somebody does there. I'm very happy for you to hear me twice. That's not a problem. It might be annoying for our audience. So to come back to our net and Brexit, because we've taken quite a wide arc away, but I'm totally happy with that. I mean, I think the things you've been saying very interesting and very true. Coming back to the, is it bringing things back to a human and sensible scale then that our net might bring to challenge fear, to challenge the very basis upon which people make decisions and the way they make decisions?
Yeah. So the reason we're fearful is because we're surrounded by people that we're competing with, effectively. You know, our neighbours are competing for the same jobs. They're competing for the, just It's interesting. I live in a suburb of Exeter, and we threw, when we got here, we threw a little party for all our neighbours and got to know everyone. That was pretty strange. It turned out most of our neighbours had never met each other, and in fact, we don't see our neighbours very much. But I know. Well, I don't know. It feels like if I got really ill and was unable to get out of the house, the chances of one of my neighbours finding out if I was all right is probably quite small. I mean, it's more like the postman would notice that the letterbox was full or something like that. Yeah. Communities have. We don't organise society in a way that supports community, and we don't get on with our neighbours in a way which supports community. And because of that, we tend to be afraid of the people around us. The whole premise of our net is fundamentally to make us more reliant on our neighbours by attempting to organise society from the bottom up. You know, we've got a really top-down structure, and I suppose it came from the royal wars of centuries ago, where the most bloodthirsty person got to a position of power and became named a king and occasionally a queen, sometimes both. But sorry,
both. But
sometimes.
Well, I don't think we haven't had a transgender monarch as yet, have we? I mean, I think it's in the air, but we have, haven't we?
William and Mary.
Yes. Carl. I beg your pardon. So you're talking about two separate people rather than a king and a queen in one body.
I was being a little bit cheeky there, actually.
Please carry on.
Right. But so all our structures actually come from a top-down. So historically, again, so just a bloodthirsty person fought another bloodthirsty person and won. So they got, everyone was scared of them because they're the most bloodthirsty. But they ended up becoming the king or the queen, and put in place structures to support their position that people would agree with, because if they didn't, they'd get their head chopped off or whatever. And fundamentally, we haven't really questioned that way of organising society. It's still a very top-down society. The fundamentals of it have never really been questioned until the computer, the internet, started to blow all that apart, until it started to give a voice to people. But unfortunately, the voice which the internet gave people was one that was... I don't like using the word anarchic, but it's unaccountable, actually. That people could just write what they want and not be accountable for their views. The intention behind our net is that people are accountable to their community for their views, because your views actually impact people. Whether you like it or not, your views impact people, and the way in which you put your views forward impacts people. And the whole premise behind our net is that if you start spamming and trolling people, then the people you're spamming and trolling and other people will mark you down. So we'll actually mark your articles down, reduce your reputation, so you start to become less seen. And what I know is what people like more than anything else is to be seen. So if people notice that their behaviour is starting to make them less seen, my fervent wish is that they start to amend their behaviour to act in a more socially supported manner.
Fantastic.
That's it.
Sounds good. And that's a very key proposition, isn't it, Annette? We've talked about how it's the love child, if you like, of Facebook and eBay. In as much as it's like Facebook, it's a place where people are offering up their opinions and their content and their pictures and their videos, just like we're doing now. Where it meets eBay is in how eBay has revolutionized the way we trust strangers and rate people on the value of their transactions and how they've behaved in that transaction. And I think that's been a really subtle and amazing shift in society, where you don't have to worry so much in the way people first did. I'm not, that 10 years ago, buying something from a complete stranger on the internet was pretty terrifying because people didn't know who they were dealing with. Now, the evolution of the process and the subsequent years and the build-up of transactions means that the first person you're likely to click on is the one who everybody else, who are also strangers, have said is a nice guy or woman. And it seems it goes in a direction like that. So it's not just that actual transaction, is it? That it builds and builds so that you get more and more or less and less trustworthiness. So that's one way we've been talking about it, is the content part of Facebook and that desire we have to share ourselves, and the trust building part of eBay. And as you've been talking a lot there, Mike, about the community building impact of such a thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure further discussions we'll be talking about the cryptocurrency aspect and the contribution and reward aspect of our net. It might be better to go into that another time. The other hashtag that we put up, I think we've dealt with Brexit to a great extent there. The other thing that's connected with what I was just talking about with Facebook and eBay and GAFA, as it's now known, Google, Amazon, Facebook and Apple. It's a great sort of corporate block that we are dealing with. Going back that 10 years I was just talking about, when the internet first started, we were afraid of strangers. But we also trusted these geeky chaps who were saying, try this internet thing for all these different things. The people at Google, the people at Facebook, the people at Apple, who you believed. And it's true. You understood that they started these projects with great passion in their bedrooms or their garage. What's changed in that time since they started it, and since we first believed that, is that they now are feeling the influence of venture capitalists and Wall Street and shareholders who, as we know, and they're connected to the 45 guys we were talking about before. Those people need to be kept happy, and that will change the behavior of how people operate in those companies. Very slightly at first, I think, and then as how it is, you get away with something. Well, that worked. I'll do a bit more of that. And the electronic edifice, I think this is a new thing that's emerging. I had this realization this week that people are worried about robots taking jobs and killing people and killing each other, whatever. The emergence of robots and the impact that's going to have on society. And it feels like it's some way down the line. But what I realized this week, in the last couple of weeks, is that I've actually been dealing with robots online, algorithmically powered robots, and they've been telling me how to behave myself. So on eBay, a robot sent me a message saying, "Oh, Carl, we think you've done a transaction outside of eBay, and you shouldn't do that." And I got this. It was like being in the virtual headmaster's office. It's like eBay didn't approve of me anymore. And when I first sort of thought about it, I thought, okay, that's somebody at eBay, but no person was involved in that. An electronic message was sent to me because of what the algorithms picked up. Then yesterday, I had a playlist deleted from YouTube. Because it was and it said the community have seen this, and the community means another robot at YouTube, it would appear. Inappropriate material in a playlist which was about building timber frames. I don't know how that happened.
Do you understand?
It didn't say anything about what was in it. It's gone, like it's delved into my account, my part of YouTube, and taken something away and told me off. Then on the other side of that, I get a good review on Airbnb, And I'm thinking, oh, I'm such a good boy. I did so well there. And, it's like this sort of emotional game of being approved and disapproved of, but by bloody robots. And then the next bit of that is if you want to complain, like I wanted to say to eBay, it's a genuine mistake. I'll very happily give you your commission. Who could I speak to in eBay? Who has ever spoken to anyone in eBay? Who has spoken to anybody at Facebook? Who has spoken to anyone at Google? We know one person who's been spoken to by somebody at Google, and that didn't go very well. And I hope to be able to say more about that at some stage soon. But this growing frustration, I think, is there. And just to bring it back again, to what we're doing, I'm hoping that our net will rehumanize, if that's the phrase, the electronic edifice that is slowly building up around us, where we're being farmed, told what to do by robots, and the stock price of that big electronic corporation is going up and up.
Well, I love that, Carl. It's first of all, I love the word being farmed by these electronic corporations, because actually we are the plants that they want to nibble. Well, actually, we're the soil that advertisers are planted in, that the robots want to farm. Fundamentally, you know me, Carl. I've got a background in community work. It's been my lifelong passion. Sort of empowering people has been my lifelong passion, and I'm absolutely committed that not only will our net be of service to the world, that actually it'll be a service to the people that employ it and are servants to the rest of the world. That's my absolute commitment. That what it does for the world is completely in accord with how it operates within itself and in its relationship with its users.
I've personally had a big chunk of that affected by a glitch. It was as though the robots heard us talking about them and then messed up your connection so that what you were about to say couldn't be heard. But the gist of it I'm getting is that there will be this return to what human beings might want on an everyday basis from an internet service, rather than us feeling progressively like we are assets of a big game over which we've no control. I think it's been referred to as a walled garden, hasn't it? Where we are the plants in that walled garden. The manipulators of that garden sit outside of the garden itself, and maybe they employ other human beings who are gardeners to come and tend to the plants. But you get this sense that beyond the wall is a manipulation that is in favour and for the benefit of others, not for the people within the garden itself. Yeah.
A hothouse, really.
A hothouse, or factory farming, because the whole shift has gone away, hasn't it, for both animals and plants in agriculture. It's not about them having a decent time in their short life on this planet. It's about what goes on outside that determines the quality of their life in their darkened, dismal barns and other horrible facilities that have arisen out of our economic system. Yep. I'm not sure if we're having a bit of a electronic edifice problem now. We're getting a bit frozen on some of the signal, and it's captured your face in a very resigned sort of way there, Mike, which is a beautiful comment on the electronic corporations such as they are. If I could get a screenshot of that, it's a sort of dismissive look towards the electronic edifice that I referred to earlier on. Maybe that we've said enough today. One great comment there is I'm liking our net. I think Dan is liking the cut of our jib. I've got a feeling I might have lost you, Mike, due to some sort of signal problem. But it might be that it's all right to end there. And we've tried and tested this system, and I think it's great. And I would, running perfectly well at Dan's end, which is good. Always good to hear about Dan's end. And but Mike, I can't hear you, sadly. So that might be a problem I've got. Mike, did you want to try and add something there?
Can you hear me, Carl?
I can hear you, yeah, but I'm not. Yes, I can, but I'm not getting your vision. So I'm thinking I'm getting our net vision, but I'm not getting a picture signal from you. So I think it might be an idea to. You're back. It'd be nice for you to be able to say goodbye appropriately, in a way that the technology will at least.
So yeah, I'm done actually. I've enjoyed testing this out. Hopefully, it's made a little bit of a contribution to the world. That's great.
I'm not hearing you at all well. It sounds like a Skype call from 2002 at the moment to me. So I am going to behave like one of those people outside the walled garden, and I'm going to end the broadcast now. Thank you so much, Dan, for your contributions, and thank you, Mike, for being up for this. I'm hoping that this will be one of many. It's a lovely format. Well done, Be Live TV. You've done a great job. Thanks, Dan. Your final comment. We'll leave that. Thanks, chaps. Visionary. Dan, you're part of this, I hope. This is a place where all the sort of visionaries and the Canaries who have been struggling with the coal mine as it is can find out more by keeping an eye on the OurNet Facebook pages, where we will do more of these. Take care. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Bye. What do we do now?